licensed video games. Games that are specifically based off of a pre-existing license. Something I always found interesting about this part is the fact that the logic of how the license can be used seems to differ based on the region of the license. Like, what I mean is, it's interesting how, let's say, games based off of movies will add in extra stuff not from the movie in order to help the runtime of the video game. But when it comes to, like, let's say an anime license, they might actually remove stuff or prevent putting in anything else that wasn't specifically in the actual narrative that's being based off of specifically. Let me explain. For example, Spider-Man 2, based off of the Sam Raimi film, would include extra villains not found in the film, such as Mysterio or Rhino, and it was interesting to get essentially a version of those characters within the Sam Raimi universe per se, even what's from the video game, not necessarily the film, but the developers are allowed to have more creative liberty in what they can include. Remember, Spider-Man 3, based on the film, also included Morbius, at least in the Wii version, or how it also instead used a scrapped scene from the film between Venom and Sandman. We had to use more creative liberties and stuff like that, rather than just trying to perfectly retell the film itself, instead just add more flair stuff. Or you had stuff like The Incredibles vs. The Underminer or The Incredible Hulk 2003 video game that were designed to be sequels to the film, so that takes place afterwards and be a canonical continuation, at least until they made Incredibles 2 and retconned the crap out of the video game. But it's one of those things where sometimes a video game adaptation was actually the canonical follow-up. Now, I know there are many IPs in Japan, they'll generally let the creators do whatever they want. I mean, Dragon Ball, while many of the games, or most of the games, just have you recreating moments from the narrative of Dragon Ball, you also have the fact that several games will include stuff like what-if stories, or try to add their own little lore spin, like how Dragon Ball Z Kakarot lauded because of how much stuff they tried to explain. Granted, it's whether or not that's actually part of the lore of the universe is up for debate, probably not, but it's one of those things where they try to add their own spin and explain some stuff from the Dragon Ball universe, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, or, like I mentioned, the what-if scenarios. Some of Dragon Ball games can just have completely goofy stuff happen because, hey, why not? Let's just put cool what-if scenarios, which are some of the content that people love Dragon Ball games do, especially when otherwise they're just recapping the same narrative over and over and over. And granted, newer generations of people will appreciate having a recap of it, considering they were born later and I get to experience it in a different way. But for the people who already experienced it, get to experience something different is a huge appeal. But now I want to juxtapose it for certain things, such as, let's say, games such as One Piece Pirate Warriors franchise, or these Pirate Warriors 4 and 3 specifically, where those games were designed in the middle of a big arc, so there was no actual conclusion to the arc at the time. So instead, the game would know that the conclusion to the game is something the developers specifically made up for it. It's not an actual canonical conclusion, which is a cool way of doing it, rather than just ending on a cliffhanger. They're like, okay, you got permission to just make your own finale to it, and I swear some stuff that you did for Pirate Warriors 4 is something that people ironically would have enjoyed in actual Wano arc. But that's not the point. But then, here's the fact that when it comes to anime games, they have to specifically follow the anime adaptation, but meaning that content that could be in the manga, but not in the anime, can generally not be adapted into the video game. Since more people watch the anime, they instead will hold things back from the games, whether it be such as Pirate Warriors 4, having DLC characters that come out specifically after they debuted in the anime, even if they've been in the manga for a long time, they add DLC characters to that game specifically after they made their anime debut, sometimes within like a week or two after the anime debuted the character or anything, showing how they weren't prepared for it but couldn't release it until the anime had shown it off. Jojo Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle, when it came out on PS3, explicitly was filled with manga spoilers, since back then there was an anime adaptation, or at least the adaptation that we know of. We had the 80s Part 3 anime adaptation, but we didn't have the one that people know about today. So they were allowed to just use whatever stuff they wanted from the manga and all parts from the manga for that game, so they could just do whatever. But when JoJo All-Star Battle R, the remaster, came out, that's when things changed. Specifically the fact that they had to remove a character from the game, this being New Moon Pucci, because this character would effectively spoil stuff for the anime watchers, considering at the time, the Part 6 anime had begun. So instead, they had to make a new version of the character that actually wasn't in the original release as compensation, and then when the character debuted in the anime, then they added him back as a free update. But it's the fact that they had to remove a character and then give you a different version just so they could not spoil anime fans, even though this character was in the original release of the game. And at the time, manga readers were hoping that they would have added more DLC characters for JoJo Part 8, since All-Star Battle originally only had one JoJo Part 8 character at the time. With the remaster getting DLC, but they wanted DLC to kind of be spread evenly throughout the parts, so they only included one extra Part 8 character, and some people were disappointed that the other parts that already had plenty of fighters in it also got more fighters added in, like for Part 2, or Part 4, or Part 6. Although, getting a Part 7 character has been cool. But it's one of those things where people felt like, oh, we can make up for the fact that Part 8 doesn't have much representation, but they only added in one new character via the DLC, instead of focusing on spreading things more evenly and focusing on the game, the NT part that has less representation. Another game that used manga content is the much disliked Jump Force, but it did include stuff that wasn't in the anime adaptations yet, such as Bleach 1000 Year Blood War arc, where it included stuff like that in the game that, for what I saw, people actually saw as a negative. Because people said, oh, why does this game have spoilers for it? And even though at that point, there was no hint that the 1000 Year Blood War arc was getting animated. Like I said, it's only getting animated nowadays. But people saw that as a negative. They tried to increase the roster by adding in some manga-only characters, and people actively got mad about it, which probably shows why they don't really use manga content when it comes to making adaptations of these properties when it comes to games. Granted, I've also seen some people say it's because the rights to the manga and rights to the anime are different, so it's more complicated, so they kept licensing for the anime adaptation, but not licensing for the manga. But like I said, I brought up cases where All-Star Battle was based on the manga, and now Jump Force is based off the manga versions, since it's a celebration of Shonen Jump, so it makes sense they'll be using the manga content for the game. Another interesting case is actually Dead by Daylight with Tokyo Ghoul, where specifically licensing the anime adaptation of Tokyo Ghoul, but Behavior got permission by the anime license holders to actually make their own non-canon version of Canon Kaneki in order to make him into a killer. You could have just made Reason a killer, Kaneki a survivor, but that's beside the point, I guess. But it's one of those things where they got permission to actually make a non-canonical version of the character just to fit the role of Dead by Daylight, and what I've seen, Tokyo Ghoul chapter sold a lot and is a very well-liked chapter, at least as long as you don't ask the survivor main. Don't ask them. People love Kaneki in Tokyo and freaking Dead by Daylight. And I know what you're talking about. The little case where they got to make a spin-off version or what-if scenario of the character rather than needing to strictly go by what the anime depicts. Even though they could have worked with the anime depicts, but instead just made Rise a skin. I remember some people saying they could have just made Jason/Yamori the killer and made Kaneki the survivor, or make Hide a survivor. Just add a survivor, he was just a killer, come on, give us more content! Demon Slayer the Hinokami Chronicles is also one some people disappointed, not just by the game itself, but also the fact that when the game came out, it only covered certain parts of the series, specifically what was in the anime, which ended up leading to people felt was a roster that was disappointing, but from what I've seen, People enjoyed the sequel a lot more because it got to use a lot more of Demon Slayer compared to the first entry, top of improving kinks the first game had, highlighting how, hey, if we had access to more stuff, it could be better. But people want to make money, so they're gonna use whatever they got at the time and screw whatever quality. I mean, look at what happened to the Jujutsu Kaisen video game that people also ended up despising, that could have used more content, but couldn't use was an anime at the time, despite how popular the manga was. Now, this is about entire games. How about also when it comes to characters being licensed? Yeah, there are instances where no matter where from, the rights holders may be very stingy on how a character can be depicted. Let's say, for example, when it comes to Soul Calibur and Tekken, where Darth Vader and Yoda in Soul Calibur 4 cannot be customized by giving him a big customization feature. None of these things will actually change how Yoda and Darth Vader appear because there's a strict rule on how they're able to be appeared. So no other outfits, no nothing, they will look the same regardless because that's how strict the license holders are. This also includes when it came to even the Star Wars games like Battlefront 2, the remake, remaster, whatever, it's the second one, where even developers commented how they couldn't just put stuff in like, oh, a pink Darth Vader because they're not allowed to do stuff like that and it'd be too ridiculous. You ain't having fun. But it's one of those things where rights holders can decide how strict their character can be shown. Now also juxtapose that when it comes to Soul Calibur 6, where the player can fully customize 2B's appearance entirely, make her as goofy, cool, whatever you want when it comes to customization for 2B. Now let's go to Tekken, and once again, you don't have that level of customization when it comes to Noctis. Nope, Noctis has to stay the exact same he is, or the presets they give him, and you can't do anything crazy customization with him despite customization tool within Tekken 7. Now cut to Tekken 8, where you can make Clive Rossfield look as ridiculous as possible. And this was a feature that both Square Enix and the Tekken team actually showcased in a live stream, just so people know, no, you got full control over how you want Clive to look and can do whatever you want with the character, because the people in charge are like, nah, let the player customize Clive, make him look ridiculous as possible. Because one of those things where many people will just be really strict on how their character can be shown. I remember hearing about stuff from David Jaffe talking about PlayStation All-Star Battle Royale, where he mentioned other devs were very strict on how their PlayStation IPs could be shown, but he felt so long as Sweet Tooth looked like Sweet Tooth, it was good enough for him. He didn't need to be super strict about how developers were allowed to showcase a character. And I believe at that time, he thought people who were very strict on how they showcase characters were being a bit goofy about that, because he feels as long as a character resembles a character, it's okay with what people do with their spin on them.
Sounds like he was the most relaxed about the whole thing, apparently.
And then when it came time to put Sweet Tooth in, they will go unnamed. But let me just make it clear to you that there are studios within the Sony structure that give a shit about their characters to the point that if you want to use their characters in a game, it's like, nope, the shirt's not exactly right. The hair's not exactly right. He or she would never do that. And I'm like, really? You're not negotiating the contract for Jennifer Lawrence to appear in an X-Men film.
Another big case of beloved licensed games has to go to the Lego games, generally being based off a different property, and the fact that at least used to be a fact that the Lego games would essentially have the characters pantomime stuff in order to get across the comedy and also narrative of the film while also parroting the film. I've seen some not like the fact that more recent entries will instead just essentially have the characters talk as if it were part of the film, and some people feel like the comedy came from the pantomiming. But then you also got something like the more recent Lego Batman game coming out that tries to combine what seems to be several films and renditions of the Batman series, while also combining it with aspects of the Arkham series gameplay by Rocksteady, which shows how a lot of stuff is being done with it, and people are very excited for it. By the way, people do greatly enjoy the Lego games, whether it be the more recent style, where they try to instead be more like the films, or how they used to be, where it'd be like, hey, what if we just try to do the film, but also kind of riff on it at the same time, and just have goofy fun with it. Can talk about the fact that when it comes to conversation about licensed games, technically every big major sports game, whether it be Madden or NBA or whatever, are all technically licensed titles, but feels like people rarely talk about it within the aspect of a licensed title, aside from people's hatred of EA and how they handle Madden, and wishing a different developer had the Madden license in that case, but never in the case of talking about it as well. I just wouldn't really judge the licensing of Madden aside from the quality of the game, as opposed to, let's say, the trying to be like the faithfulness and everything, like other IPs. Like, on this video, I mentioned stuff like Spider-Man and Dragon Ball and Jojo and faithfulness and everything, trying to be like the IP. How does one judge that when the IP is just real-life sports? So people generally just focus on, hey, is the game good? No? I wish someone else had a license instead. Licensed music is also a big thing, or it could be something like, hey, here's Grand Theft Auto, we have licensed music on the radio. Or, hey, here's Saints Row 4, where the two big moments of the game, being them getting in the finale, have these big set pieces tied to licensed tracks. Or how Saints Row 3, one of the big things known about it, was the fact that it had the track power in one of the trailers, and then people were surprised when they actually included it in the game itself, and it must have really boosted how people saw the mission in question, considering the mission itself was kind of crap, but people like it because of the track playing and really added to the atmosphere. Or how Remedy Entertainment constantly has the band Ports of the Fall, who have their own likeness put into their entertainment titles as the band, the fictional band in the universe, Old Gods of Asgard. But they're heavily associated with Entertainment because of how many tracks they keep making for the series, even if I believe you talk a streamer mode, their tracks probably won't play to play something else in their place, but yes, you gotta hear the tracks. They make big moments in the game. Can't just not have Old Gods of Asgard as Ports of the Fall. There's another thing, despite Ports of the Fall working with Remedy Entertainment to make original tracks for the games, it's also the fact that they're still licensed tracks that could down the road make it to where remastering, porting, or whatever the games could vanish one day because of licensing. Or also even like how Avenged Sevenfold have made several tracks specifically for the Call of Duty series, specifically for the Black Ops titles, and despite the tracks being made for the games in question, could one day just be gone since technically it's still owned by the band, their label and everything, and not by developers or publisher. Which leads to the big final thing, the double-edged sword of licensing, where so many things can just vanish or just because of licensing. I mentioned earlier how, songs from GTA's radio had to be removed because licensing. There's so many games that just can't come back for one reason or another because of licensing, or someone else gets the license, it's like, nope, can't do this anymore. Like how people want the Activision Spider-Man games to come out, your Shattered Dimensions, your Edge of Time, your Web of Shadows, but because Activision doesn't have the license, can't do that. Or your freaking Ultimate Alliances 1 and 2 to come back, but they don't have the license, so nope, can't be done. The Tales of series, which has a history where several games, the opening track, can differ from the Japanese version because of licensing, whether it be something like Tales of Symphonia on GameCube that had a completely different opening track, or something like Tales of the Abyss, Tales of Hysteria, where they just instead had a lyricless version of the track, so it was only the instrumentals. But other times they'll either have the Japanese track playing or have an English version of the track playing, an official English release of it. But it all depends on the licensing of the opening track itself. It's one of those things that, especially if you play Tales of in the early years, you just have different tracks playing, or instrumentals, but nowadays they'd be doing better when it comes to either getting the track to play for the opening, or instead having an English rendition of the track play. Instead, the foundation of Lollipop Chainsaw was founded on licensed tracks, but when they decided to remaster the game, they didn't have rights to licensed tracks and have to replace them, But it's one of those things where the feeling's not the same since from the inception, it was built around those tracks and everything. People felt heavily disappointed when it came to a remaster, along with other reasons being disappointed by the remaster, but the track's one of those things where if a game was built upon a certain track or a certain thing theming from the track, having it removed could just pretty much kill the excitement for the game. It sounds so ridiculous, but it's one of those things where it's the basis of where they basically had the idea. Last one I'll mention is Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus. These are two spin-offs towards Final Fantasy VII, Crisis Core being a prequel, Dirge of Cerberus being a sequel, respectively, where for years people thought the reason these games never got ported or anything is because of the licensing of GACT. Not only just GACT's music being in Dirge of Cerberus, but GACT's likeness being used for the character of Genesis when it came to Crisis Core, and once until Crisis Core Reunion got the remaster of Crisis Core, where finally it came back. But Square Enix claims that the likeness of GACT was never the reason why it never got ported, but that being the accepted fan theory of it. Make a question of, okay, so then why wasn't it? They also even mentioned how they actually had GACT record all of his lines as Genesis, even though the PSP version was not fully voice acted, so they also didn't even need to get GACT back to record all the voice lines. So it's one of those things where they seem to have planned ahead just in case, but also waited so long to port Crisis Core, so like, what took you so long? Dirge of Cerberus has not been ported. Like I said, it has music from GACT in it, but also GACT's likeness as well in the game in a certain scene. So once again, it's like, okay, now that you're just back to doing Final Fantasy VII compilation stuff, where's Dirge of Cerberus at that point? Like, where is it? The entire game gone because of, like I said, on all Square Enix claims, it's not because of the likeness of the actor. I don't want to say because of the likeness of the actor because honestly, what other reason is there? So that's what I want to talk about when it comes to licensing and games, everything. How it can enhance games, or they could do unique stuff with the license and everything, or how the license could just be so restrictive and just force you down a certain road because of the whole entire fact. Unless you're Fortnite, which they allow Fortnite to do whatever the hell they want with their IPs, I swear. It's one of those things where Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite had to follow the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Meanwhile, Fortnite could just have the characters doing whatever ridiculous thing they wanted because I guess Epic Games just has that kind of power. The rest of this video will just be me and my friend talking about stuff that got affected via licensing, whether it be stuff removed and stuff like that, or games that are going to be made, including even mentioning something like freaking Leo's 2 Human and X-Men Destiny, which legally had to be destroyed due to licensing reasons and everything. So I'll mention over the video. Alright then, go out there, play games, whether it be licensed or not, or let the licensed content help makes the experience better for you. Or maybe one of those people who streams a game which can turn off the licensed content in order to prevent being copyright claimed. In which case, I hope you see what the original content experience was. So, that's all I gotta say. Alrighty then, good day.
So another easy one off the top of my head would be Mortal Kombat 9 having Freddy Krueger in it. The game was available for anyone to buy for a good while, but I don't know if it got discontinued on console. I know for PC, after a while, like probably back in like 2018 or 2019, I don't recall, it's been a while, MK9 ended up getting permanently delisted. So while you could probably still get physical copies, even though it's going to probably be from resellers, you cannot virtually buy the game anymore because they took MK9 entirely down because they lost the licensing rights to Freddy Krueger. And you would think rather than just maybe they could remove Freddy Krueger from the game and leave MK9 up for grabs, I don't know if it's hard-coded into the game or what, but they just, like, entirely nuked MK9. You can never get that shit again.
I didn't even know they got removed. They got listed.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, for the people who own it, they kept it. It's just, for people like me who never bought it on PC, if we didn't get it back then, we're fucked. The next one I would say that's easier for me to say off the top of my head is Dragon Ball Z Super Sonic Warriors 2 for the Nintendo DS. Now, the Japanese version of Super Sonic Warriors 2 had a character that was removed from the States version. called Nekomajin Z. I don't know much about said character. I just remember seeing him in the back of the box and wondering, is this like an unlock I have to do for the version I was playing? Is there like a secret code I have to enter back when, you press combinations and codes and unlocked all that crap? But no, Nekomajin Z is exclusive only to the JP version of Supersonic Warriors 2.
What the hell? They own that?
I don't know.
So they made by Toriyama. What even?
Maybe Nekomajin Z is not allowed out of the Japan. I don't know.
Guess they probably didn't include it because they thought because it wasn't released in the West that foreigners wouldn't understand it.
True.
What the hell? They really own that one. And since you said Dragon Ball, I'm gonna get this one out of the way before you can. The OST for Budokai 1 and 3 HD.
No, I didn't even think of that.
Had to be completely replaced because the composer plagiarized those tracks out of other tracks. So the entire OST had to be replaced, and it's not the same at all. Because people really like the OG tracks, but it's easy to like the OG tracks when they're literally plagiarized of other popular tracks.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised they even replaced the anime intro songs, which also get removed in the original Western versions, where once again, they not include the lyrics, and I'm like, really? You didn't include the lyrics to a freaking DBZ opening?
So what, they replaced Chala?
No, it's by the same singer, but Budokai 2 and 3 had opening songs sung by the singer, but they didn't include the lyrics when they released them in the West.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, what the hell? Is John doing that for Dragon Ball? Which I know, technically, they didn't do that for Dragon Ball Z anime, where they didn't include freaking Chala Hechala, instead it had Rock the Dragon, but shut up. About shut up.
Two goated songs.
It's funny how people unironically don't know about We Got a Power.
Oh man.
And we're unironically confused on why Team 4 Star stopped using Shachala Headchala during the boo bits. That's the funny part. People don't watch Dragon Ball Z. Alright, time for the big one, Guilty Gear.
Ooh.
You see, Guilty Gear was always made by Arc System Works, but the publisher who had it, who owned the rights, was Sammy Holdings. Then, in the 2000s, Sammy ate Sega. And so the company actually laughed, but it was actually like a way more kindness thing where the CEO actually merged the company because he really liked Sega.
Oh, okay.
And Sega was like a really bad financial position. Probably would have had to close their company at that point. But that's why Sega today is now called Sega Sammy.
Oh.
Now the thing is, Sammy was all cool and stuff, and like Arc System Works made Guilty Gear. Sega was not.
Oh.
Sega was like, you know what? I don't think you should keep making these Guilty Gear games. Arc System Works. And thus, the Guilty Gear fan base knew pain as they went through many years with either very bad like spin-off games or the fact that Sega just like, nah, no new Guilty Gear. And that time, guess what franchise got created to fill the gap?
What?
Blaze Blue.
Oh.
And that is why Guilty Gear fans hate Blaze Blue. Because because Arc System Works didn't want to say it was licensing reasons why Guilty Gear couldn't be made. So that they could quote my friend Shaquille, they made some dumb excuse saying that, oh, Guilty Gear fans are old, probably don't play video games anymore. which was a boneheaded thing to say, because obviously Guilty Gear is 90s anime to Blaze Blue's 2000s anime. But, like, you should not try to insult your families like that. Which is why when Guilty Gear Xrd got made, it was a big deal, because Arc System Works got the license back to make Guilty Gear. So when Xrd was made on PS3, it was a huge effing deal. But now, you wouldn't even imagine there was a period where there's no Guilty Gear. You can only basically sneeze out more Guilty Gear casually. But there was a long period where there was no Guilty Gear due to licensing reasons. And now Blaze Blue is the one that does not have new games. The last Blaze Blue game was a freaking trash gacha mobile game.
Oof.
And no, Blaze Blue HBF Fight does not count, because HBF Fight was not even designed to be a Blaze Blue game. It was just a roguelike game that then, mid-development, got the rights to use the Blaze Blue license, but it's not an actual Blaze Blue game. So yeah, got to include Guilty Gear and how that was in licensing hell.
Okay. Now this one hits a little close to home for me. Quantum of Solace, a James Bond licensed game to tie into the James Bond movies starring Daniel Craig at that time period. That game is nuked. You can no longer get that shit. It was released in 2008 for the DS, PS3, Wii, 360, and I think they were still doing the older consoles at the time. Might have been PS2, I can't recall at this time. But yeah, so it was a movie tie-in game, and it was very good. But after a few years, like I would say probably short, I don't think it lasted that long. Like it immediately got nuked. And I believe this is not on PC. So this was a physical only game. And if you didn't get it within that time slot, you can never get it again. I don't know why. I never found a reason why they immediately nuked that shit when Daniel Craig continued playing James Bond for years to come.
Well, it depends on if the rights to it. If they just felt like, hey, you don't have the rights to make James Bond games, it's like, oh, stop production immediately at least.
That is true, yes. So probably that's what happened, because that shit immediately got hard nuked, and unless you got a physical copy from that time period, GG. Good luck.
Yep, I gotta add this one to the list and add it right now and talk about it right now. That's how important this one is.
All right.
Silicon Knights. This is not a game. This is a developer.
Okay.
Silicon Knights, apparently, in some way, shape, or form, misused Unreal Engine 3.
What the hell?
They tried to argue their way in court against Epic Games, but failed.
Oh.
They were then ordered to destroy every copy of, I think it was, 2 Human and X-Men Destiny, because those games were made using Unreal Engine 3.
Oh.
Like, I remember, there's an X-Men game where they had to physically destroy the games because they're no longer allowed to sell it in any way, shape, or form. I remember Screw Attack at the time making a joke about making a game out of fighting every copy and destroying it, and they snapped 2 of their own discs in half. And the discs were of ABGN DVDs, which apparently were very durable compared to very hard to snap. And they're like, that's that good quality stuff right there, hard to break it. But yeah, Silicon Knights, due to issues Unreal Engine 3, had to destroy every copy of their most recent release games.
Wow.
They weren't games that people even really liked, but the fact that to destroy them over mishandling of Unreal Engine 3 is something else. You're next. You talk about saying those games are gone or done. They're like, right, they're a game that got to be destroyed. Like, actually gone.
I think you said FF13. Like, was there a Mass Effect costume or something?
FF13 2 had DLC costumes for Assassin's Creed and Mass Effect. These costumes were not brought over into the PC release, and you had to mod them back into the game.
Yes, so that does count.
It was an Ezio outfit for Noel and an N7 armor for both Noel and Sarah.
Ah.
You know what? No one's to talk about but me on this planet. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reshelled.
Okay.
So, back in the day, you had a TMNT arcade game. This arcade game was turned into a console game called TMNT 4 Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. It also had a Genesis version called Hyperstone Heist, which are both technically different games, but Hyperstone Heist... Okay, Turtles in Time is a better game, but Hyperstone Heist plays infinitely better. My god, it feels good to play. Anyway, Turtles in Time is one of the most, and not the most popular TMNT game ever released. So Ubisoft decided to make a remake called Reshelled. The lasted about 2 years on sale before being removed because Ubisoft no longer had a license for TMNT. As this game was digital only, it's impossible to get the game again unless you owned it before.
Wow.
And you wouldn't want to because the game was ass. I own it. It was not good. It was a 3D remake of the game that controlled awfully because it was a game made for 2D, trying to make 3D controls, and it just did not work. It's also based off the arcade version and not the Super Nintendo version, despite advertising itself as if it were based off the Super Nintendo version. And I say that because the games differed in levels and bosses. It also used the 4Kids 2003 era TMNT voice cast.
Oh.
Which is an interesting choice, but the game's based off of the 80s Turtles.
Oh.
So it's weird to have the 2003 voice cast doing the role when this is not their Turtles. Especially since, in recent years, we still had the OG voice cast for Turtles still doing stuff. It's not as if they couldn't have gotten them. They just picked the most recent Turtles to have happened, since that was around 2009. So it would be after 4Kids' show ended, but before the 2012 TMNT show. By the way, the game is a game you can't get anymore due to license expiring, and it's not good. It's not even included in the freaking Calibur collection.
Ooh.
But yeah, I just want to mention that because who talks about that game?
Now this one I only found out a few years ago, and it still haunts me to this day because I know I would have loved playing this game, but I missed out on it. Lego Dimensions.
Oh, baby, I saw an entire live stream about this game, this live stream marathon. That game blows my mind.
So I'm like, I'm E.T., and then I'm E.T., and then I get into the TARDIS. I'm like, oh, cool, I need to scout the town faster. So I'm fucking E.T. who's walks slow as shit. And so I'm like, okay, I got E.T. right there. Time to put him in the fucking TARDIS. And then E.T. gets in it and he starts flying around in the fucking phone booth around San Fernando Valley in California. It's so fucking hilarious. It's the funniest fucking shit in the world. It's the funniest shit in the world. It's like, E.T.'s like, like instead, I'm like, I don't feel like walking around. And so I'm just like, bam, TARDIS, son, easy. I got everything. I got everything. It is so fucking funny. Ah, shit. He's be like, I hate you, E.T. Just falls off the cliff.
Be good. I'll be right.
Oh my god. Oh man. You die in the game, you die in real life. Oh man. You just be mean to him. That's so terrible.
Yes. And for someone like me, who knows almost all the IPs in that, it fucking hurts to know that I can never play it again. So, LEGO Dimensions came out, I believe, in 2015, 2016, 10-ish years ago. And basically, this was the biggest LEGO game that you can ever imagine because it brought in so many different IPs into this. And the way that you went about it, it's not like what you normally think, where it's like, oh, okay, it's like DLC content, let me just go buy it virtually. No, you had to physically go and collect the relevant packs that would grant you access to unlock the characters in the game. So it worked as a physical accessory item, and then I don't know how it worked because I never owned it and I didn't look into it, but you connect that accessory to said game and it would unlock said content. So an example of multiple things that came to that game that you would have to buy physically, which were damn expensive by the way, were various DC IPs, various Lego IPs, Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future, Portal, The Simpsons, Jurassic World, Scooby-Doo, The Wizard of Oz, Doctor Who, which hurts me the most because I love Doctor Who, Ghostbusters, Adventure Time, Mission Impossible, Harry Potter, The A-Team, Sonic, Gremlins, E.T., Lego Batman, Knight Rider, The Goonies, Powerpuff Girls, Teen Titans Go, and Beetlejuice. And you may think, oh my god, that's a lot of IP. Surely they're just all reskins. No, they put effort into this. Because I looked up the Doctor Who one. Oh, Lord have mercy, the amount of pain that I went through. To see that each of the respective, at the time, 13 doctors had their own actual voices play for each incarnation, quoting each incarnation of their famous lines from their respective time periods. That fucking hurt me, especially when you're in their TARDIS. When you regenerate into the specific doctor, it shows the inside of their specific fucking TARDIS. All of this is like fucking a wet dream to somebody who likes multiple things in one collection. But if you weren't there at the time and you didn't collect that shit, G fucking G.
I literally saw people live stream marathon a bunch of Lego games, and then one of their viewers was generous enough to lend them all of the Lego Dimension pieces, like everything, and I got to show off how insane it was. Like, you mentioned the Doctor Who thing. You didn't mention the Doctor Who level where you had the freaking weeping angels chasing after you, and you had to try and solve puzzles as the lights would go in and out as they're coming closer and closer to come get you. You didn't mention how they got the actors for Marty and Doc Brown back for freaking Lego Dimensions when they didn't even come back for the freaking Back to the Future. Well, it's Marty's VA did. Marty's actor didn't come back for the Back to the Future video game to get a voice actor who it sounded like. But the actual actor reprised his role for Lego Dimension, which blew my brain. You could be going around the Simpsons, riding around the riding around in the TARDIS in the sky.
Man, that was too much to mention, okay?
It is insane. And the fact you mentioned there being Lego Batman. That was Lego Batman. There's Lego DC Batman, and there's Lego Batman. Then they're counted as two different characters who can interact with each other.
Yes.
It is insane. I have my mind blown, especially when so many of the IPs have their own levels with storylines. There's an entire Portal storyline that takes place post Portal 2 with the characters referencing the events of Portal 2.
Mm-hmm. Imagine how much fucking pain I am to only just recently discover this shit. God fucking damn it, bro.
I think I forgot to watch this on a live stream. As the streamers are blown away too.
Oh my god, bro. You can trust that if I was aware of this game's existence back in 2016, I would have bought that shit, no question.
Oh, I was. I just thought the game was going to be a low effort game. I did not expect the sheer level of quality from that game.
One more thing I was gonna add to Lego Dimensions. Man, it's blasphemy that when I was made aware of this game's existence and I looked it up. Tell me how I can actually find the PS4 Lego Dimensions game for like $12, but its accessories are like 100 plus because of resellers.
Yeah.
Imagine how I felt when I was like, oh damn, the game's only $12. All right, let me go check the accessories. I go look for the Doctor Who accessory. I saw some motherfuckers selling it for $180.
Yeah. That's what streamers I mentioned had to borrow it from a generous viewer, and they got their minds blown.
Oh well.
So what's your next game now that we're done bragging about Toys to Life? What's a huge fan of the 2010s?
Another movie tie-in game that was console only, well, physical only, I should say, at that time. And if you didn't get it, good luck. Fortunately, I do own this one, The Bourne Conspiracy, which is a movie tying game to the Jason Bourne series. Very good game. But yeah, it was pretty much, and I think Matt Damon did reprise his role as Jason Bourne in there. So that you cannot get that shit unless you had it at that time. I think it came out 2008. I have it on PS3. So unless you got it physically, GG, you can't get that shit anymore.
Let's go for one. Let's go for one. I'll stab you in the heart. Alan Wake. Alan Wake for a period could not be purchased because the IP was owned by Microsoft.
Oh man.
So until Remedy got the license back, they could not do anything with the Alan Wake license for years. Which is why Alan Wake coming to PlayStation consoles is a big deal.
Yeah, because it was a 360 only game at that time, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Did that include American Nightmare, or it was just Alan Wake?
I believe it was Microsoft owned the Alan Wake IP at the time.
Oh, okay, so it would be both of them then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that explains why American Nightmare is only on PC as far as I see it, not on PlayStation. I don't know if it's on Xbox. I don't own an Xbox.
That's the thing. Even if it was imported, the backwards compatibility of the Xbox One and Series consoles means just every release Xbox 360, it'll almost likely be playable on a new console.
Okay, so American Nightmare is just only not on PlayStation.
Yeah, that's why, despite the fact that Final Fantasy 13 never got a remaster or anything, you can still play FF13 on the Xbox. It's why Xbox literally you can play more Final Fantasy games on Xbox than you can on PlayStation. Street Fighter Cross Tekken.
Oh boy.
So, Street Fighter Cross Tekken had many controversy associated with it. Let's talk about the roster. So, the PS3 version included extra characters on the Xbox 360 version. I believe one of them was of the at the time PlayStation mascot, which was the little white and black cats. Can't remember their names. But like the mascot sorts of the PS3. The big one is exclusive to the Vita version of the game, weirdly enough. And that is Cole McGrath of the Infamous series. And man, it is weird seeing Cole in a Street Fighter art style that's to give the guy massive bulging muscles. And this caused controversy because they use the same data across all versions. So technically, through hacking, you could also play as those characters on the Xbox version.
Oh.
In fact, that caused a lot of controversy because this is when the concept of on-disc DLC became a thing.
Oh.
It is where they blatantly had content finished and put on a disc, but dummied out just for them to sell you the right to use, just for them to sell you the characters DLCs, but the fact that the character's already done on disc. So there are many characters on the disc, including even characters for the roster is going to be DLC, that if you just hacked your console, you can already play the characters for free. Funny enough, Capcom was actually told how this will happen and not to do it. And you know what the response was?
What?
Why would the user hack the disc? That's not allowed. They were that naive. Like, what? That goes hacking the disc. Why would the user do that?
You fool.
And then they went through, people hacked the disc, found out all the characters are on the disc, fully playable, and people got mad. But for licensing wise, Cole McGrath was only in the Vita version of the video game. I'm gonna count this one, but it's not licensing removal, it's licensing restrictions.
Okay.
PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
Ah.
The way the characters could be depicted were heavily restricted by the license holders to cross-promote new entries. So even if other characters made more sense, they were not allowed to use them. That's why you got Reboot Dante instead of OG Dante. That's why you got Metal Gear Rising Raiden instead of Solid Snake. Get to cross-promote the new game, the new games. That's why freaking Spike or Ape Escape resembles his, I believe it was Million Monkey design, which is based on Japan only entry because it was up to date one, even though people in the West never got that game. I'm sure he's not radically different design, but he looks different enough to where some people may not even recognize that's supposed to be that was same Spike from Escape.
Yeah.
So there's stuff like that just got controlled by license holders. Oh yeah, also why you also have young Heihachi to cross promote with Tekken Tag 2. So there's stuff like that to pretty much agree like, hey, you're restricted by how you're able to show these characters because the license holders want to promote their new game, even if it doesn't make sense to even use that. So there's stuff like that where IP holders can be like, hey, follow our rules and no characters. That game still sold very well, by the way. So Sony just screwed them over. I like how neither of us said Dead by Daylight was a big enough of a licensing snafu.
Oh yeah, because fucking Pinhead, Demogorgon got gone, but then he came back, and then Pinhead is gone now. Fuck.
I go neither of us thought Dead by Daylight was big enough for this topic.
Because I guess DVD is still ongoing. You know, I guess we're thinking about like permanently kill.